ओम जय स्वाहा माता।
बोल श्री आदि शक्ति जगदम्बा माता की जय। Devotees, we will begin with a bhajan by Pandit Umesh, after which we'll focus upon some words of wisdom taken from Udhav Gita. So let's concentrate as we begin with bhajan.
विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए, विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए। विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए। शबरी के बेर सुदामा जी के चावल, शबरी के बेर सुदामा जी के चावल, रुचि रुचि भोग लगाए, रुचि रुचि भोग लगाए। विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए। बड़े बड़े मंदिर कौन काम के, बड़े बड़े मंदिर, बड़े बड़े मंदिर कौन काम के, बड़े बड़े मंदिर, बड़े बड़े मंदिर कौन काम के, 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 बड़े बड़े मंदिर कौन काम के। भाव अंदर नहीं पावे, भाव अंदर नहीं पावे। सूरदास प्रभु तुम्हारे दरस को, सूरदास प्रभु तुम्हारे दरस को, काहे तो बेर लगाए, काहे तो बेर लगाए। विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए चलो तुम, विदुर घर जाए।
बोले वृंदावन श्री कृष्ण चंद्र की जय। Devotees, in the Udhav Gita, there was this avadhut, an individual who practiced renunciation. He lived in the world but was not of the world. Scantily clad, a piece of loincloth only, and he would be roaming everywhere, exposing himself to all the different climatical changes, whatever hardships that we perceive exist. But at all times, he was always very, very peaceful, in a state of ecstasy, and in a bliss that he experienced, which the majority of the world would never experience. He was approached by a king whose name was Raja Yadu, and Raja Yadu asked, "O Avadhut, you are so young." He was quite a youthful person, comparatively speaking. And here you are, roaming from place to place, absorbed in a state of ecstasy that is difficult to express. How do you manage? How do you manage to remain in that state of constancy, absorbed in divine bliss in this world of attractions and distractions? The Buddha said, "O king, I learned a lot as I traveled through the corridors of life. I learned from 24 gurus. Now, learning can be either direct or indirect. So when he said, I learned from 24 gurus, he enumerated them like the sky, the air, the fire, water, the wind, the fish, the pigeon, even the courtesan, Pingala. He learned from so many, but indirectly. He said, O king, learning these lessons, I apply them. An application of lessons bring about that experience, that wisdom, which helps one to rise above and beyond the world's attractions and distractions. He said, O king, this body has 5 senses of perception. So there is a sense of sight, hearing, the olfactory sense, the tactile sense, and the sense of taste. It is through these 5 senses, the Gyan Indriyas as they are called, that we perceive this world. The senses are like the cows, so to speak, grazing on the so-called green pastures of the world in which people live. The mind is impacted upon, and so we act. But I have come to realize that all that can be perceived by the mind and senses is delusive. It is unreal. It has no lasting existence. So I try to go beyond these. Meaning what? Controlling the senses. By controlling the Gyan Indriyas, the senses of perception, one is able to withdraw at a tortoise pulling in its limbs, leaving a hard shell on the outside. One becomes oblivious to the attractions and distractions of this world once one is able to control the senses. But, O king, the sense of sight is quite easy to control. The sense of hearing, likewise. The olfactory sense, likewise. The tactile sense, likewise. The most difficult of the 5 Gyan Indriyas to control is the sense of taste. The sense of taste. Now, devotees, all religions teach, they encourage a certain degree of fasting. For Hindus, Navratra, a time of fasting. All religious occasions, we say fast. Why do we fast? Why do we fast? When we say fasting, we imply abstinence from certain types of foods, drinks, of course, certain type of activities. But the key to it is that, like in Hinduism, you are told you can eat something sweet. Avoid the spices, avoid the salt, avoid so many of these things. Maybe eat fruits. Other religions may have their sacrifices. But if you analyze closely, the key to fasting really, or the key objective of fasting, is to help to control the sense of taste. Now, there are 6 tastes which affect or which control every one of us. And I say control because we are not in control. These 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent. Analyze closely. Some like sweet things, some don't like sweet things. Some like it salty. Some like it bitter. Some like it pungent, astringent. Everything is taste. You get Persad, it tastes nice. It ain't tasting good. You eat the food, it tastes real good. It ain't tasting good. We make pronouncements based upon taste. Now analyze and see if this is not so. Everybody is caught up with the sense of taste. And fasting is given to us to help us to transcend or to bring about a certain degree of control over that sense of taste. Now, a man is a product of his thoughts. The thoughts a man has, when I say man is a generic term, totally dependent upon the food he eats. And the food we choose to eat, most of us, if not all of us, is really dependent upon the taste of it. Even if it's nutritious and so on and so forth, but you want to have it tasting good. So understand what is happening here. The taste, to a great extent, determines the quality of the food that we eat, the kind of food we eat. The kind of food we eat influences our thoughts, and our thoughts are who we are and what we are. You understand how very important this sense of taste is? Very, very important. So the scriptures tell us the sense of taste is so very crucial, so very, very important. If one can control the sense of taste, then one really, really has developed in yoga. Now the Avadhut is saying, O Raja Yadu, the foolish ones, they are caught up with the sense of taste as the fish. He uses the example. He says, Jivahayati pramathinya jano rasa vimohitaha mritu mrichatya sadbuddhir me nastu buddhisharyatha. The foolish man, infatuated with delicacies by an over-greedy tongue, meets with death like the fish by means of the hook. Now, here we are branded up being foolish, infatuated with delicacies by an over-greedy tongue. We meet with death. And he learned the example from the fish. When the fishermen would throw the hook, they would put something, whether a worm, the bait, whatever it is, and the fish would see that, not realizing lurking behind that bait is what? Death itself, in the form of the hook. So the fish grabs, believing he's eating something, the sense of taste, pushing him along, and when he grabs, the hook gets into his gullet, so to speak. And that's it. He meets with death. Now this is man's situation. Analyze closely. In today's world, there is obesity. There are different types of diseases. Almost all, analyze it, goes back to what we eat. What we eat. Yet we continue to eat. And eat uncontrollably. As the saying goes, we dig our grave with our own teeth. The Yadu, Raja Yadu, is listening to these words of wisdom from the Avadhut. The Avadhut is saying, O king, man is very foolish because of infatuation. He gets carried away and he puts himself in this pathway of self-destruction because of lack of control of the sense of taste. One needs to control that sense of taste. He's saying, however, Indriyani jagantyashu nirahara manishinaha varjayitva turasanang tanniranasya vardhate. Great men, however, who give up food easily control the sense organs, except the organ of taste, which becomes more troublesome to one who does not take food. Now, this is something again we need to analyze. Does fasting mean not eating at all? You realize that when you don't eat at all, the mind develops a craving. And when your fasting period is over, You eat like you never see food. You eat more. You go to excesses. And therein lies another serious problem. It becomes more troublesome. In the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan Sri Krishna says, Yoga is moderation. Yoga is moderation. So what the Avadhut is saying, O Raja, what one needs to do is not starve oneself, but eat a little bit at a time, so that you satisfy the so-called inner cravings, rather than not eat at all and then go overboard. Control. Controlled amounts. In other words, you eat to live. You don't live to eat. Control of the sense of taste is so essential. Very, very crucial. Great men who have such great control, it is so very difficult even for them to control the sense of taste. So the Avadhut is saying, Ta vajjatendriyo nasyad vijitandrendriya puman na jayadrasanang yavat jitang sarvam jiterasi. A man who has overcome the other organs cannot be a master of his senses until he controls the organ of taste. When the organ of taste is controlled, everything is controlled. When the organ of taste is controlled, everything is controlled. I mentioned that a man is a product of his thoughts. The thoughts we have influence our attitudes, our behavioral patterns in so many ways. If the food is exciting, I'm agitated, I want to find things, I look for things that attract me. The airs, even the tactile sense, even the olfactory sense. All the other senses are pulled because of the thoughts that I may have, which are influenced by the food that I eat, which is controlled by taste. So now we come to a very, very important point to my mind. When we are fasting and so on, we do not say don't eat anything at all. If you don't eat anything at all, and the cravings, the body develops cravings, and I say at the end of it all you go overboard. So that you eat many times more than what you would have eaten under normal circumstances. That makes no sense. Extremes are not good. When we speak of Madhu Kaitab means too much and too little. Too little, not good. Too much, not good. You have to strike a middle path. Now, we all know, you like something, you overeat. You don't like something, you're not eating. Taste controls all that. If I fast, we are told when we are fasting in Hinduism, you may eat something sweet. There's the seventh taste we call Param Ras. That ras, that supreme taste, a taste of ecstasy, bliss, born out of spirituality. The closest taste to Param Ras is the sweet taste. All the others can be quite distracting. Now what we are told, you have to eat something sweet because people can't stay without eating anything at all. You shouldn't. As a matter of fact, the sages in the forest, when they would do their tapasya and so on, what would they eat? The leaves from the trees and drink water. Tasteless. Tasteless. But if we tell people eat tasteless things, then that will like killing them up front. So we say, okay, eat something sweet. But the whole idea of the fasting as such is to help us to control the sense of taste. When I can control the sense of taste, all the other senses are automatically and can automatically be brought under control. And when that happens, it's only then I can really proceed further in spiritual pathways. Devotees, you cannot become spiritual when you can't control the senses. When you sit to pray and you have cravings, the eyes, the sense of sight distracted, the sense of hearing distracted, as we all know what happens. How could you pray? What level are you going to reach? The victory over these can begin with the control of that sense of taste. And do not believe it is so easy to control. It is the most difficult sense to control. So fasting is recommended. And how do we do it? In your fast, you don't overdo anything, neither underdo. A little something every now and then. Every now and then. And we suggest something sweet. Because like salt and so on, all these foods are exciting. And they can create agitation of the mind, which becomes even more problematical. So this is why we say something sweet. Now we have those who are diabetic. How could you eat something sweet? So you have problems. You have problems. This is why again we say in controlled amounts, a little bit, to satisfy the cravings of the mind. Now I want to put something to you. We speak about feeding the devatas. The devatas. When we do havan, we make offerings to all the devatas, we say. I've always asked the question, is God hungry? Is God ever hungry? I want to submit to you that the organs in the body are really the devatas. Yatha pindi tatha brahmandi. As in the microcosm, so in the macrocosm. The body is microcosm. All the devatas, everything exists inside. The devatas are in the forms of the organs in the body. They need nourishment, but they don't need overnourishment. So when you say you're feeding the devatas, here also, you can't starve them. If you starve them, they give you real trouble. They give you real trouble. And if you overfeed them, they give you more trouble. Therefore, moderation is important. As you do havan, when you eat, that's a form of havan. There's an internal fire. An internal fire. Vishwanar, the fire of digestion. When we eat, that is a havan that we are doing also. Satisfying the inner devatas, so to speak. But you have to do it in the right amounts, control amounts. And when they are satisfied, then you have control. If they are dissatisfied, you are under their control. You run into all serious problems, as the majority of people are under right now. So you're distracted by taste, by hearing, by sense of sight, tactile sense, olfactory sense. Devotees, I am sure that you would have observed in days gone by, well, many of you may not be from days gone by, but you would have observed even in certain religions, you know what they do? In any congregation, they put the men and women separate. Women sit by themselves, men sit by themselves. Why? There are certain restrictions placed upon the mothers, sisters, and daughters. Why? You sit next to someone, a woman, who is well dressed, well perfumed, and you sit to pray. You think you're praying? You think you're praying? Whether it is your wife or somebody else, the senses are distracted. Don't tell me no. And these days, many of the men also put in plenty cologne. So when you sit next to them, if you're not careful, you can be distracted also. What they try to do to create a system whereby you're not exposed to these distractions, especially when you sit to pray. But when we do these things, people say, well, that's discrimination. So in other words, it's more socialization than spirituality. More socialization than spirituality. If a person really wants to go along the spiritual pathway, to climb as high as possible, this is why they keep saying, man or woman or child, there are times when you have to sit by yourself and put that focus, withdraw your senses, and try to go to higher levels. It is not practical, not impossible, but highly improbable that sitting amongst all with your own personal sadhan that you could go to any great heights. No way. Badly distracted. Distractions are there. And the senses automatically gravitate towards the external field. So I want you to understand these little points. And we have to try to make that effort to work on taste. Fasting, when you fast, you're not fasting for God. Many people say they're fasting for Durga Ma. Durga Ma asks you to fast? You're fasting for yourselves. And if you fail to do that, Durga Ma doesn't lose. You lose. And when you don't have this degree of control, you don't feed the devatas, the inner devatas, sufficient, just enough to go by, then you also in problem. And adhyatmic top, bodily discomfort, two kinds, as I explained some time before. Adhi and Vyadhi. Vyadhi, physical illnesses. So you overeat, diabetes, obesity, you undereat, anorexia, whatever they call it. Either side you develop problems. Vyadhi, physical discomfort. And from that Vyadhi you get Adhi. Now you start to worry. You're restless, you're agitated, and before long you get mad. You're gone off through stress. Who created it? Who is the cause of it? Each individual. Never forget that, devotees. Each individual. So our destiny lies in our own hands. And importantly, fasting is recommended. But fasting has an objective. And that objective is to help us to lift ourselves to higher levels. But try to focus especially on the control of the sense of taste, which will automatically bring about the control of the other senses, and then we can rise beyond. The Vadhut said, this is the way I live. I get, I eat, I don't get, I just go on. I eat to live. I am not living to eat. Get that, devotees? So you have to have that will, that ichha. We will glorify our Shakti Jagadambama. Power of will, Ichha Shakti. Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Devi Jagadamba.
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Sankat Harani Mangal Karani.
Sankat Harani Mangal Karani.
Sankat Harani Kalimal Harani.
Sankat Harani Kalimal Harani.
Sankat Harani Chinta Harani.
Sankat Harani Chinta Harani.
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Jai Jai Devi Jagadamba.
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
Jnana Shakti Vijnanamayi, Premamayi Kalyanamayi.
ज्ञान शक्ति विज्ञानमयी प्रेममयी कल्याणमयी
Hey Jnana Shakti Vijnanamayi, Jnana Shakti Vijnanamayi, Premamayi Kalyanamayi.
ज्ञान शक्ति विज्ञानमयी प्रेममयी कल्याणमयी
Hey Shubhade Mata Devi Jaganmata.
शुभदे माता देवी जगन्माता
Hey Shubhade Mata, Shubhade Mata Devi Jaganmata.
शुभदे माता देवी जगन्माता
Jai 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 Devi Jagadamba.
जय जय देवी जगदम्बा
संकट हरनी मंगल करनी.
संकट हरणी मंगल करणी
संकट हरनी चिंता हरनी.
संकट हरणी चिंता हरणी
हे संकट हरनी कलिमल हरनी.
संकट हरणी कलिमल हरणी
जय जय देवी जगदम्बा.
जय जय देवी जगदम्बा
ओ देवी जगदम्बा.
देवी जगदम्बा
देवी जगदम्बा.
देवी जगदम्बा
बोले श्री आदि शक्ति जगदम्बा माता की.
ॐ जय स्वाहा माता मैया जय स्वाहा माता तुम अग्नि की शक्ति तुम अग्नि की शक्ति तुम सच्ची माँ